like RISC-V. We made minor modifications to it, mainly to make it more on-chain friendly, and it supports the RISC-V embedded instruction set architecture. And so what you do is you just compile your programs to the CPU, and then our linker translates it into a PVM blob that then is executable by palette revive. PolkaVM provides very efficient compilation because RISC-V is very close to x86 bytecode. So all those hard annoying problems, compilation problems that we have with WebAssembly, they actually just don't exist. So we can compile those programs much faster. And it also means that we can let LLVM or whatever good compiler framework spend a lot of time off chain producing like very, very optimized blobs. So this means we have like very efficient compilation, and the contracts we are execute are actually like very optimized and fast. And yeah, PolkaVM also has gas metering with a gas model suitable for contracts, which not all WebAssembly implementations have. So as it is a standard, if you have portable code, for example, JVM or also Node like the V8 engine does this, you can actually either interpret or JIT compile the PVM blob. Interpreting it means you can start execution instantly like the EVM does. So interpretation is obviously also much slower, but it might not matter because, as I said before, if your contract does not do a lot of work, like interpreting it will always be faster than compilation. But if you also can compile your contracts, yes, you pay a fixed upfront overhead, but after compilation, your code executes much faster. It executes in near native code speed, and with this I mean actually near native speed, not as we'll see in some benchmarks. And contracts on Polkadot Hub will support both. We just start with the interpreter, and the JIT compiler will follow later. So what this translates is more or less whether to use the interpreter or the compiler is kind of an optimization problem. So if you don't have a lot of iterations, as you see on the bottom left, you might want to use the interpreter because that's faster. But the more iterations your code does, so if you imagine something like calculating Fibonacci numbers or calculating a hash, then like the more iterations you have, eventually will reach a tipping point where it might be worth to use the compiler. And here are some benchmarks. So what this does is it executes a NES emulator, and so we can compile this. It's called Pinky, and we can compile this Pinky NES emulator to various virtual machines. So we have the PolkaVM recompiler, the PolkaVM interpreter, Solana RBPF, and WASMI. WASMI is like what the old contracts, the WebAssembly-based contracts palette uses. And we also have WASM time here, which is what parachain validation function uses. It's like the state-of-the-art
Hey. Hello everyone. Hello to all the hackers of the Polkadot AssetHub Hackathon. So today we are here with Haoyang Li, who is the co-founder of MontaQ Labs, and he will be basically hosting this workshop on the Web3 from front-end perspective. So I guess we have a lot of emphasis on making front end look best, especially during hackathons, and having like more focus on refining the backend when we make it to the production level. And I guess for the MVP level also, most of the hackathons might as well give hackathon participants might as well give importance to the front end as much as the functionality. So obviously, functionality without proper front end is not something judges can judge very well. So for judges as well to know and understand your project very well, this is a crucial point. So let's give a short intro about Haoyang, and then we'll get into the mini workshop. So actually, we met Haoyang quite a few months back. Distributor sub DAO members and Haoyang basically were in a call where Haoyang was representing Relay, which is a project started back in 2024 as like a first prize hackathon winner in Bangkok, Polkadot Hackathon. And from there, it also got like a Web3 Foundation grant. And then he was collecting feedback from different ecosystem contributors, and we were one of them. So from there, now directly we are meeting after a while. Thanks to the other co-founder of MontaQ Labs, Abhiraj, for introducing and inviting Haoyang to this hackathon. So without any further ado, let's hand it over to Haoyang, and we'll deep dive more into the front end perspective which Haoyang wants to share. Welcome.
Thank you for the very warm introduction. So a little bit about myself. Me and Abhiraj co-founded MontaQ Labs. It's based on Relay, and we won the Polkadot Bangkok Hackathon. That's for our IoT product, which is a very backend heavy project. Actually, by the way, can you guys see my screen? I'm sharing right now.
No, not yet. I can see your like video, not a screen share.
Okay, let me quickly reshare that. So how about now?
Adding it, just a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So today's topic is more about front end, but it's not like how we can make front end really nice. Because I actually agree with Shankar what you said during the opening ceremony. Actually, we should focus more on functionality, because the front end part is actually kind of art or kind of design. That is not, we are not hosting a design hackathon. So I think that the most important part is the functionality. And that is what I observed during many hackathons we have participated. Like each time I enter into a hackathon, someone is asking for front-end dev, because somehow there are a short of front-end devs in Web3. But I think that should not be the case. And today I'm gonna show why it shouldn't be that case. So what you guys are seeing my screen right now, it's a app I created specifically for this workshop, and it's created I think within 5 hours. So the purpose of this step or app is to showcase that actually you don't need that much of codes to interact with the contract and Polkadot AssetHub. And you guys can let me just show this simple connection section. Okay, so if I connect to this passive network, it will come back with the chain information, hopefully, because my network is, yeah, that's good. So you can see, like, we can see the endpoint we are connecting, the chain, the node that connected at like the timestamp, and all of this information. This front end might looks like polished, a little bit polished, but actually the only thing important here, the code on the right side of my screen, is actually just these couple of lines. And everything other than these codes are just for show, like it's for display. It's not actually very core to the interaction with blockchain. So the project folder, I want to quickly go through this project folder. It's open sourced, and I will like publish the link somewhere, maybe in the social group or in chat later. I specifically made 3 different JS files, and each of them handles one single function. For example, this one is just connecting to a chain and get back the chain information. And this one is just, you can see the code is very, very clean. So there are no complicated things. You just enable your like front-end wallet and you get all the accounts you have on the front end. And this one is a little bit more verbose, but it's actually quite easy to understand, which I will go through real quick. But the point I'm making here is like, you can see there are a lot of files inside this front-end project, but not many of them are important to connect to blockchain. There are only 4 files that is very important. It's these 3 and this wallet selection part. So let's dive into this simple connection. Actually, I think connect to any blockchain, it basically follows the same steps. You need to have some provider. And the name, I don't know who came up with the name. Provider is not actually a very easy to understand thing, but you can think it more of like a Web3 provider, like a gateway to blockchain. So after you have a provider, you can call, this is from Polkadot, right? This is Polkadot specific connection. So you use this thing. This thing is imported from Polkadot API. After you have this API object, everything is simple, actually. After you have this, you need to, the only thing complex is that you need to find out what you can call, right? Because there are many methods hidden behind this API object. And let me show you real quick the documentation of what is available. I also include this in the GitHub project. So basically, Polkadot maintains a very comprehensive list of the things you can do. It's Polkadot.js org docs substrate, actually under metadata. And you can see there are a lot of functions. Let's say this JSON RPC. And you guys can see this is just too much things. And you can, basically whatever you can think of is already provided. It's just like you need to take some time to go through this doc and find the thing you need. But once you find that, like they already provide the method, like how to call that. And here I'm just using the most simple thing, API RPC system. So basically it will return what the meta information about the chain you are connecting. And yeah, so this is simple connection. And with this file, and if you change this part, like the API dot part, you can basically get anything you want from the Polkadot blockchain. And how do you want to use that is actually not related to blockchain. It's actually related to UI UX step. So this is this part. And based on my dev experiences, I think I divided the most important things into 3 parts. You first need to make a connection to the blockchain. So I have covered that. The second part is like you need to somehow connect your wallet. So this is the second part, the wallet selection part. And it is, like, let me just demonstrate this real quick. So once I click this, you can see this opens my talisman. Actually, it also opens Polkadot.js, but I already connected that. So if I close that, it will just show the things I already connected. So for this part, I can select maybe any account. Let's just select sender. And we can see that I prepared just 2 basic functionalities. First is check balance. So check balance what this do is it go to the PolkadotAssetHub, PolkadotAssetHub AssetHub blockchain, and it will return me the balance I have on that thing. And this simple transfer is actually hard-coded because I'm too lazy. I don't want to do that many forms, like input the recipient and stuff. So I just hard-coded the recipient address. And by the way, that's my address. So I'm not sending anyone more pass. But yeah, maybe you guys can't see, but it already opened my Polkadot.js app. It's on my other screen. So once I sign the transaction, you can see it is submitted successfully. And if I check the balance again, it will show like I only transferred one pass because I'm cheap. So I only transferred one pass, it minus one pass. And that's it. I think this is the most important part actually for the blockchain interaction, because you need to send money. And that's actually something I have a agreement with my co-founder Abhiraj. Like when you are doing innovations in blockchain, the most important thing is to facilitate value transfer. And if your app or your projects deviate from that, you are entering into a very unknown field, because that might be something Web3 doesn't need. But I'm not saying it must be, but it could be. Like it could be you are doing some Web2 stuff, actually don't need Web3. So I think the transfer function is actually the thing you need to master. So if you want to maybe build a dApp, then go to the Polkadot.js doc I just showed. They have a lot of function regarding like balances, transfers, and all that stuff. So, but yeah, that's the second part. And the UI might seems a little bit like too much. And we are certainly not require everyone to build UI like you shouldn't spend that much time build UI. I build this because I'm a front-end developer, so I kind of like that. And another reason is that I don't know how to build contract. That's not true, but I can't build complex contract. So this is the wallet selection part. You can see on the right screen. I don't know if this is too small. Should I? Yeah, let me just make it larger. Actually, there are only two functions, and the contract I'm using is actually provided by Remix, not Remix. It's provided like by default. When you open the Polkadot Remix here, and you can see you will have a storage contract. I changed the name somehow, but the code is the same. Like it only has two functions. One is write, one is read, basically. And after you build that, like after you click this button and you build the contract, it will have the, not this one. Let me run that real quick. Yeah, well, once you build that, you will find a file, and I've already copied that here. You will find the storage API file. And this is basically, I think, everything you need. Like there are more elegant ways to interact with contract. Like Polkadot has already provided their own API method to interact with substrate contracts. But they are just start to build that. So I didn't want to show that here because anything could change, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after tomorrow. It's not stable. Just like this workshop, I built this workshop on AssetHub, on the Western AssetHub, but that went down. So I have to change the thing. And yeah, so my suggestion here is if you are building for Hackathon, you might want to first choose the most stable thing, like the stable basic technology you are using, because you never know when will the technology fail you. Like, so just be safe. And after you get this storage API, it's actually just, let me find the file here. There are like, let me make it smaller. Like maybe it has like 129 lines of code, but the only thing important here that related to blockchain interaction is here. You first need to, and I don't know how many of you guys in the audience are already Ethereum developers. If you are, this thing should look familiar because it's just use ethers, right? because the AssetHub contract is Solidity contract. So the interaction pattern is basically the same. You just need to call the JSON RPC provider, again, the provider. It will return you something that you can use to connect to Web3. And then you need, like the storage API I talked before, you need that to initialize basically like for front end, because it doesn't know what backend is. So it needs something to fool itself to know that, oh, this is the backend contract. So you need this method to create a contract object, and this object will have the functions you define. Let me show you guys here. In the contract, you have two functions, and it is under this thing, the name key. So you have retrieve and you have store. So basically, what you do, you just like call them in a normal JavaScript way, and you will get returned a value, and the value is actually also defined by this API. It is defined here by the outputs, so that you will know what you should expect from the blockchain. And yeah, basically, actually, I think this is how many lines of code. This is 1, 2, 3. So basically 3 lines of code you can call a contract. And this functionality is provided by Ethers, actually. This is the power of library. If you ever try to call a contract or a blockchain using the raw methods, it's going to take you a while. It's going to be, I tried to do that before. It's going to be like 10s or 20s lines of code, 20 lines of code. And you never know what you are doing because the documents is vague. So sometimes you just use libraries, right? But the point here I'm making is like front end is not as complex as maybe someone would think. Because like these 3 lines of code has already done the job. The other things I'm showing here, like all of these other things are not blockchain related. And also I want to point out a pitfall here. When I started doing blockchain, doing front end for hackathon, the first hackathon I participated, back then I don't know how to do front end code. So I learned the most hottest thing is Next.js, right? Everybody is using Next.js. So I learned that. But it turns out Next.js has a lot of dependencies and assumptions on your codes. And so sometimes the wallet doesn't work with Next.js. And it doesn't mean like your code is wrong. It's just like your code doesn't run with Next.js. And you need to read through the Next.js doc to find out like, oh, you need to wrap your component in some specific way. Or you might find out like it sometimes tell you window is undefined. Like the first time I saw that, I was like, what? So because Next.js is making things like it's based on React. And recently I learned that React is created by Facebook. And when Facebook doing this project, they are not thinking about hackathon, right? They are thinking about like how to make Facebook run faster. So they are solving the issues that we don't need to solve at all because we don't have millions of users using this thing for your hackathon. So for the hackathon, you should do something like, for example, this step, I didn't use any framework. And I do that on purpose so that everyone can create something similar from an empty folder. So you don't need to do create next app, something like that. So this is the app, like the transfer demonstration. And the last part, I think maybe some like this is not for every hackathon participants, I think, because I know that someone is building CLI tools, like which is interact with chains, not contracts maybe. So for those who are interested in how this smart contract calling work, this is a contract address I deployed, the storage contract, and you can just call retrieve, right? The call retrieve will just call this function here. And this function, as I said, it will retrieve these things And the result is stored in this variable, stored value. And how I display that value is actually not important. I just choose to display them in this way. The only thing returned from the blockchain is this part, 42, which is the value stored on chain. And if you want to store a value, of course, you just maybe 11, and it will again call up your MetaMask. And on my other screen, I'm gonna confirm that. So actually, this is not the first time I deploy on AssetHub, but based on the general feeling of this platform, I think it runs much faster. So that gives you a kind of new opportunity on your front end if you are doing some front end project, because you can expect the result coming back real quick, and you can make the user experience better than those on Ethereum. You don't need to wait for that long, basically. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's the open source product. And also, like I mentioned, this workshop only has one goal, is to demystify this whole front-end Web3 thing. It shouldn't be that hard, and you shouldn't think of it as that hard. So I created this very, very, maybe too verbose README, and you can find that under in the repo, and there is a section called Quick Start Guide. So basically what this thing does is you just start from an empty folder. You don't need to install anything, install Next or React or anything, and you follow the steps, and you will arrive at the same front end as I'm showing here. And you can change your RPC method, or you can change your contract API, but basically you will get the same thing. You will get the basic functionality you need for interaction with your dApp. And actually that's basically covers my whole workshop. I was planning to do a live coding, but I think that would be too long. And actually, to be honest, when I code this dApp, I think it within an hour, the core function is ready, but I spent 3 to 4 hours just to debug it. So because the AssetHub might went down, and I noticed that someone in the chat mentioned that their transaction is pending, is stuck, and they cannot get another transaction through. I met the same issue, and I was so frustrated because I don't know what went wrong, and I just uninstalled the MetaMask entirely. But I forgot to back up the seed phrase, so I don't know where the wallet goes. But luckily, that's a developer wallet, so it doesn't hold any monetary value. And that's another tip I want to give you guys, because I've lost a wallet before, just for this reason. So please use a wallet that doesn't hold any of your money, because you don't know when you're going to do something really crazy and you're going to lose that all. So yeah, that concludes my presentation. And I just want to emphasize one more time, there are only 4 files that are important to interact with the backend. So you just need to, if you can understand, there is another thing, it's called Ether's provider. This is actually from the create Polkadot dApp. I noticed, I tried to use this repo to create this workshop at the start, but it doesn't work. I don't know why, but it doesn't work. So I have to create my own. That's another thing. When you are using libraries, you are creating dependencies, and you kind of sometimes you just don't know what went wrong. So what this thing does here, and I promise this will be the last part. So what this thing does here is if we open the console, there are too many errors. Okay. This provider thing, you can see it's calling window.ethereum. So basically, what is a window? Window is actually an ancient naming thing. So back then, the browser doesn't have tabs. So whatever you open is a window, it's that thing. So the name stopped. So it's window. And if you have like wallet installed in your browser, it will inject into this window object. This is actually a global object that your dApp will have access to, or like any other website will have access to this object. Like you can directly access the Ethereum object, and this is what this code doing. It is checking whether you installed something like within the Ethereum ecosystem, and you guys can go through this like manually to see what's in there. But basically, this is what this means. And if you are, I don't know if anyone is using Next.js. Sometimes if you get window is undefined, that means you are doing inside a, like if you don't add this, I guess many people know this, but I just to specify, if you don't use client, your code will run in server. And in server, it doesn't have access to the window object in the browser. So that's why sometimes you will get window is undefined. And that should be a tip for you to like add this use client thing. Yeah, and that's conclude my presentation. I hope everyone is like feels better to do front-end development. Yeah, it's just 4JS documents and you're good to go.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Haoyang, for this great mini workshop. We'll now open up for questions if anyone have any from the YouTube live chat or even the Telegram, not Telegram, Twitter live stream. Haoyang actually mentioned a really crucial thing because currently the Asset Hub or Palette River is in its early stage. So developers might push new updates for the dependencies, even the runtime will change. So especially we can't do much with the runtime, but on the dependencies side, this is what worked for us back in the days when we used to also participate in the hackathons. So it's like any new technology has very faster release cycle, especially in the substrate or Polkadot SDK. We see a lot of dependencies getting updated frequently, and if you are using a specific version and then it gets auto updated, and if you are not adding the log file on GitHub. So if you have log file in the git ignore, then what happens is your Vercel deployment or any automated deployment will retrieve the latest version of the dependency, and it will break your deployment. So you might be wondering, oh, this works in locally, but why is it not working on Vercel or somewhere else? So always add a log file.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah, that's the two biggest myth in programming, right? Why is it work and why it doesn't work? So yeah, it's just something like we have to live through.
Any other advices would you suggest apart from like storing log file?
Like I specifically avoid to do that because I think when it comes to front end, you will find like everybody has an opinion. Like like every front end developer I met, they have different ways to do things, and so that's why when you look at front end codes online, you will see thousands of different patterns, and everyone claim they have the best pattern. So after some time, I just stopped suggesting things like that. I would suggest like anything works for you and is safe, then that's good.
Yeah, that also like a really good advice, because what worked for us back in the days might not be relevant anymore.
Yeah, the front end world is it's like Polkadot. It evolves too quick, and sometimes people tend to make it super complex. Like you need this and that to do this and that, but actually you don't. And that's actually my point of this presentation. Like, don't make things complex that it should be.
Perfect, amazing. Looks like we got a question. No, we just got comments. So Rama is saying thanks for such a great explanation.
Yeah, thank you
Zest
guys.
is saying very clear explanations. Then
Yeah, and I would like, I don't know how many, I can't see the live stream right now, but if anyone want to provide some pinpoints of like you met during front-end integration, feel free to send into the social channels. I'll be monitoring that, because this will be like what I'm showing here will not be a one-off project. It will be actively maintained by MontaQ Labs. And the goal here for me, myself, is to cover all of the endpoints Polkadot provide, so that it becomes something like Open Zeppelin. Like you can just copy the code and you're good to go. So because I think at least that's what I think is important for backend developers. They shouldn't spend too much time on frontend.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a really good advice, especially for solo hackers, right? Because they have to handle both.
Yeah. And I know the pain.
Okay, we got
Firsthand.
one more comment from Calvin. Super cool. Thanks for this. He's saying that for the workshop template that you worked on. So they can definitely use that as a starter template. Okay, any other questions? We don't got any questions. A lot of appreciations.
Yeah, I think I might make this too easy.
No, but that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point of this hackathon,
Yeah.
is to make it easy to start developing in the Polkadot ecosystem. And that's why we have this palette revive, which opens up like an exposure to the broader PolkaVM. And maybe having this simple approach can help us get on board like a lot of developers to the Polkadot ecosystem.
Yeah, I hope so. I do hope so.
Okay, Ed, we got Solo Hacker in the chat.
Oh, we got many solo hackers. I respect that. It's so like it's so painful. It's fine, but it's you need to handle everything, and sometimes you just don't know what you did wrong. The code just break sometimes.
Okay, last call for any other questions, any feedback, any comments. Or if you have any doubts related to like any bugs or anything, you can literally ask anything to Haoyang.
Yeah, I just maybe want to mention another bug I met during develop this app is the metadata. It's actually not from my. It's not like my code is wrong, but it's like Polkadot.js is wrong. Like sometimes you need to update the metadata and something like that. So too many moving parts in front end.
Yeah, that's like a pro advice for the advanced developers who are looking to like inherit the Polkadot native features. But for the beginners, I guess they don't have to deal with the metadata. They can just treat it as like a EVM environment, although it's much more superior than EVM.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe there are no questions, and I just want to highlight this again. These two parts. If you want to do front-end integration with Polkadot, I think these are the things you're gonna need. And Polkadot recently just launched this. I think maybe it's not recently, but they provide a much cleaner explanation of what you can do with the API, with the Polkadot.js API, and they even provided like. So basically, what this derive does is it bundles a lot of meta APIs and it do one thing. So you don't need to call maybe 3 APIs. It just does that for you. So be sure to check this document. It's also inside the Polkadot.js org docs called derives, and you can just copy the code. So it works.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Can you please zoom in a bit? I guess the ID is zoomed out again.
Oh. You mean the code or the both? Okay. Yeah, maybe this is better. Yeah, but actually, I forgot to do a poll, like how many audience here are already know React. Like I guess it's kind
No,
of
no,
late.
it's fine.
But yeah, if any audience can share their background, it would be very helpful for us as to enhance this project, because I'm assuming everyone has understanding of React, so I didn't explain that part. But maybe that's not true. I just realized that.
Okay. React hackers or React developers, say hi in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, please say hi. If no one say hi, I'm gonna assume like no one knows React. But even if you don't know, don't worry. I have already like include all of the steps you are gonna need to build this thing in the README, like everything, even the folder creation. So just want to make sure. Yeah. I saw like Rama said he used Vite. I also use Vite here. Like I think it's cool. It's a build project. It's a build tool that is really fast and lightweight. But everything here is already like explained in details in the README file. So
okay, I guess we no more have any other comments or questions, so we'll wrap it up for now. Thank you so much, Haoyang, for accepting the invite and for hosting this wonderful mini workshop. We'll be looking forward to more guidance for the hackers, and also you will be one of the judges, right? So
yeah, and please DM me in the social chat, because I'm not an expert. I'm not gonna pretend I'm an expert. So if you have better, like you want to talk about front end integration, just I'd really love to talk that with you.
amazing. Thank you so much for this great session. And that's the second workshop of this hackathon series that we have during this Eliminator round. We'll have two more. Tomorrow, actually, we'll be having an AMA. That will be focusing on all the questions, not just the front end. And day after tomorrow, we'll be having two sessions on 5th and 6th. And then on 6th at 11:30 p.m. IST, we will basically close the submission for the eliminator round. And on 7th or 8th, we'll have the announcements for the top selected 12 to 15 teams. So give your best, guys, and happy building. Bye. Bye, Haoyang. Bye.
Happy building. Bye.